Kerry Jackson, Bill Allred, Gina Barberi from X96 Radio from Hell, the morning show. Thank you so much for being part of
Thanks
Three
for
Questions.
It's nice to be here.
This is really great. Now, Kerry and Bill, you guys have been together for the last 27 years on the radio. Gina, you joined them at 24 years ago, so you're the newcomer here.
I am the new. I'm still in my trial period.
How have you managed to not get fired?
Oh,
We've actually talked about this before.
we have?
Yeah, it is.
Didn't I try to fire you?
How have we managed to not get fired?
Well, we've talked about how we haven't broken up.
Yeah.
Oh, that. Okay.
That's what we've talked about. Because morning shows break up often.
I thought he meant specifically Gina being fired.
We've
That's
wanted
what
to
I
fire her a lot.
Really?
No, I think the secret to longevity, it's like with a rock and roll band, they have the tendency to break up pretty quickly because they spend too much time together. We don't spend any time together. 4 hours on the air, maybe an hour. Well, Gina, maybe 5 minutes. She's out the door, and then we don't party together. We don't socialize outside of the.
We're like when the Eagles tour. They have separate buses for each member.
Oh, wow.
You know, we
Yeah.
keep it separate.
I have in my hand the mission statement from Radio from Hell.
How did you get that?
How old
Will
is
you,
that?
will you please read that?
All right.
Okay, well, now there's music that goes with this,
Oh, is there?
and I'll try.
All right. So do I start and then you start?
I'll start,
Okay.
and then I'll
All right,
give you
here we
direction.
It is our mission to embrace the idea that our show shall always strive to belittle the stupid and play an occasional song. We shall also strive to take all of your requests, but to never, under any circumstances, play any of those requests.
I should stop. That's back when we played music on the show. It's all talk now.
It's all gone.
Go.
Yeah, okay.
Go. It's our mission to offend as many people as we can in the shortest time possible and say the stupid things the way we want to say them, or something like that.
I can tell I'm throwing him off.
Yeah. We shall always remember that no matter how pointless and stupid the things we say are, we shall never present them in such a way that they will be lessons that will last a lifetime. We shall strive always to do nothing and to be mean. We shall strive mightily to always be the #1 morning show in Salt Lake City, or if not that, the #2 morning show, or at least somewhere in the top 15 or 20 morning shows. At least once a year, we shall go to someone's home and we shall eat really good food, and we will make you wish that you could be there to share it with us. And finally, it's our mission to always remind the listeners that we never lie and we're always right. So let it be written, so let it be done. All right.
That was very nice. Now, what does all of this mean?
Well, I think it's self-explanatory.
It's all absolutely true.
I think maybe the meaning of that is we do the show for ourselves.
Yeah. Which is a problem that a lot of our consultants have had with the show. They think
My biggest compliment is when Kerry laughs at me.
Oh, really?
That's the big. We
He's
say
that
things-
tough of an audience for
He
you.
is.
I didn't know.
He is a tough audience,
I
yeah.
didn't know I was.
Yeah, we do the show for ourselves. We don't do research, or we hate research to find out what the audience wants. We figure as long as we're doing it to entertain ourselves, people will come along with us and enjoy it.
Well, you've got this incredibly loyal following. Your audience is fiercely loyal. To what do you attribute that?
It's like there are several staff members here at Fox 13. Every single one of those staff members that came up to me today,
Yeah.
I contacted before I came down. And offered
promised them money.
Yeah.
You're getting the illusion of loyalty.
Oh, no, it's true, though. I mean, you've got friends of the program that
Yeah.
check in every morning, just about.
I can't explain it.
I don't know.
Do you have an answer?
Do you know what? I was a fan of theirs before I worked for them.
Really?
I'm still a fan. They're real people. If you, I'm sorry, did I out you? If you listen to other shows, they sound like a show and a put on and a. What you get with Radio from Hell is that's who we are.
Well, there's the morning show formula that they talk about, that the consultants talk about. How does it go? There's the
the deer,
No,
the
don't say it.
doe, and then the another D word.
Jerk.
Okay.
And that's how you're supposed to make a morning show. And they do try it, and they've tried it here in Salt Lake. These companies that have come from out of state, and they said we're gonna get a show, we're gonna make it take on that X96 morning show, and we're gonna follow that formula, and it'll work. It never does.
And we've had bosses, program directors and bosses who have said to us, nobody wants to hear about your personal life. Nobody wants to hear what you had for dinner. They don't care what kind of car you drive. And we just go, yeah, well, whatever. and we talk about those things anyway. And as it turns out, people do like it.
Well, and like I said, you've managed to not be fired, which is really an accomplishment in radio,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes, it is.
Well, we're, believe it or not, smart enough to know how far to take it.
Good.
It's hard to believe, but we are smart enough to know how far to go.
I mean, you know, we live in the community. We know the community standard. We've pushed the envelope here and there too far sometimes, occasionally, but it's always we've managed to survive that.
And what happens when you push the envelope too far?
Meetings.
I don't. Have you guys ever had to apologize on the air?
No, it's mostly you.
It's mostly me.
I've never had to on the air. I've been asked to off the
My
air.
mother's asked me to, but that's a different thing.
Know that if I ever apologize on the air or to you in person, I don't mean it. Okay?
He's
I
not
was
lying.
made to say this. Well, as everybody knows, it's a very irreverent show, and you talk about just about everything and anything. Is there anything off limits?
Yeah, you know, I think if they're, and because they're off limits, I can't really tell you, but so I had somebody say to me one time, aren't you worried that people know too much about your life? Aren't you talk about all these intimate details about what you do and where you go and, you know,
Your family.
family, and aren't you worried that people know too much about your life? And no, because there are things you don't know. I'm only telling you what I think is. I'm only telling you what I think you can handle.
And what you should, only the things that you're allowed to know.
Yeah. There are things in my life that people don't know about, and Kerry's, but we do get pretty personal. I mean, we'll talk about, you know, the deaths in our families, and you know, I mean, my brother a few years ago ended his life by suicide. We talk about that. You know, things that we think maybe are important to share with our audience because they have similar things happening.
Yeah.
That goes back to us being real people. We talk about things that you talk about with your friends when you're at dinner.
And,
That's the same
and to
thing.
those management types who said nobody wants to hear about those things in your life, I mean, what do you guys talk about when you come to work? It's the same thing.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff.
And so that's what we do. That's what we did on the show. And I think we've proved those management types wrong just by still being and doing and succeeding. So.
Who makes the decisions as to what's going to be on the air, what you are going to do, what you aren't going to do? You know, who kind of produces the show along the way?
I think we each bring certain skills to the show. We each have our certain little areas that we kind of deal with, but we don't. Our mantra has been for a long time. Save it for the radio. We try. We've kind of fallen away from that, by the way. But we talk a little bit. We try not to talk until the microphone goes on at 6 a.m.
It's
so
all
that
very
it's
organic.
fresh.
Yeah.
It's we don't plot it out. We're going to do this, this, and this. We kind of see where it
We do have certain benchmarks
Yeah.
that we go to.
I mean, we know we'll have to do this, you know, things that must go at this time. We'll know that. But as far as what the things that must go are, we may not know what each person is presenting.
We have the feature that they'll be doing on X96 long after we're fired. The feature, the boner of the day. They will because we don't own that. We created it, but we don't own it. So when we're fired, whoever they hire to do our show, they'll make them do that because
It'll be a great morning show that we've constructed. We're going to have a deer,
and
a jerk, and a doe.
Now, I have to make a confession, total transparency here. You guys work in the morning, I work at night. I have literally never heard your radio show before, but I have become an avid fan over the last 2 days. And,
that's all it takes.
What I'm wondering is, if I never hear your show again in my lifetime, what will happen to me?
If you never hear it again,
Never hear it?
If I never hear it,
You'll be fine. You'll be just fine.
it might be good for you.
It would be.
You know, it's like we have Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox
Yeah.
during the legislative session. He comes on our show once a week and answers some questions from the audience. But we keep telling him, if you're serious about running for governor, you should not be a guest on our show. He's a brave man. So, but I mean, what would happen to you? I think that you would just go back to living your quiet life.
my quiet,
You'll be fine.
boring,
It's all right.
uninteresting life.
I am asleep for 2 hours by the time y'all come on.
Yeah, are you really?
Yeah, I sleep right at 7.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you're asleep for 2 hours
Well-
after we go on the air. And so
No.
that'd be a different story.
Sleep right
altogether.
at 7. I haven't seen you or Hope in ages.
Well,
How is she?
she's doing very well. In fact, I don't know if
Is
she's
she here?
back yet. She's out
seen
on a
her in
shoot
ages.
I
today,
love
but
Hope.
We do.
yeah, we all do. I mean, she's just a gem, and we're so glad. Now, you guys have been together for decades,
Yeah.
and over that time, the show has changed, and radio itself has changed. What has changed?
Oh, God. I mean, everything. I mean, when Kerry and I started in radio, we were editing audio tape with razor blades.
Quarter-inch tape with razor blades and wax pens.
Wax pen, you did that
Oh,
probably.
yeah,
with-
yeah.
And so technically it's changed for the better for the most part.
We were playing a combination of records and CDs in the studio, going back and forth. That's how the playlist had to go because we only had a turntable and a CD. So we
It's
had
all on computer now.
now it's all taken care of. I don't have to do any of that anymore.
And because automation has gotten so good, people have been put out of work.
Yeah.
And that's a big change, I think. There is, I shouldn't say, but I mean, there is no overnight guy. You know, it's somebody who's recorded it.
Which is
Yeah,
sad.
yeah,
And
no,
that's-
and I think
That's
we
how
all know
I
that.
started.
Overnight.
Overnights. And I
We've all
don't
done
know
that.
where the training ground is for the next round of us. There's no overnight, there's no weekend guy,
yeah.
there's
So you know, radio, and I probably brought television as, we're kind of eating ourselves alive in certain
The
ways.
technology
Yeah,
is, yeah.
by that, and I find that really horrible. But it's changed. What
I like local competition. They just assume we have no competition at all. But I used to like it when a lot of the radio stations would have a local morning show and they're talking about local things and we're talking about local things and what's their spin on it, what's our spin on it. And we just don't have a lot of that competition anymore and I don't care for that.
But at the same time, I do kind of disagree with you in that everything is our competition.
That's
Yeah,
true.
that's-
Yeah.
Everything. If you guys, not just radio, the computer, Spotify, it's all our competition.
Podcasts.
Well,
We've always approached it that way.
And let me ask that very question in a formal kind of way, and that's this. With internet streaming, with television, with satellite broadcasts and Sirius radio and all kinds of iTunes and I mean, people can get, and podcasts, they can get their information from just about anywhere.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
How has that changed the way you guys approach what you do on the air to make the business model of radio still work?
The way it works is, you're right, they can get that stuff anywhere. What they can't get is Kerry and Bill and Gina. There's only one place they can get that. Well, they can get it on a podcast or,
Yeah.
you know, but there's only one place they can get that. And that's what I think broadcasters fail to understand, that Fox News in the evening here in Salt Lake City, Hope Woodside, Bob Evans, you can't get that on the other channels. You can't get that anywhere else. And so if there's a chemistry there, they can get the news anywhere.
Sure.
But if they have a chemistry between you and Hope, personalities that they like, that they feel good about, then that's the winning thing.
And we've had this philosophy pre-internet because there was a time when all the radio stations were playing the music that X96 was playing. It was the popular stuff at the time. And so we went to our bosses and we said, look, they can get this music anywhere. You flip the dial, you can get it anywhere. We need to be doing something in the morning that is vastly different. And that's when we were saying it should be a talk show because you can listen to this anywhere. And they said, no.
Shut up and play the music. You know,
And-
got to get 9 songs. Did you get your 6 songs an hour in?
how's the temperature? But then 9/11 happened and we didn't play any records. we just started taking phone calls from people. We had a TV on, and we were watching it happen as it was going down, and we were just talking to people, and people were calling in and talking about how they felt and how they were afraid and all of that, and we did that for 2 straight days.
Then, yeah, the next day, and then our manager, I won't name him, our manager came to us, she says, you know, I've been thinking, you know what would be a good idea is if you guys just did talk. I've been thinking, maybe you guys ought to do. Thanks.
But that's what I love about radio.
Yeah.
That happened that morning. We threw out everything that we were doing and we said, let's take phone calls. Let's have people down here. We completely changed it was immediate. People had a cathartic place to go and talk to us, and we could change it like that.
We even threw out our advertisers, didn't we?
We
just
did. We played no commercials.
We're
It
not
was live straight.
not going to play any commercials.
2 days.
Well, and that is, I think that's what I loved about radio back when I was in it. You could turn on a dime and go in a different direction and have that be wildly successful.
Yeah.
And that must be a luxury.
It's responsive.
It's a luxury that we in TV don't have. I mean, because
Hard to do.
yeah, it's hard to do that with all the visuals that you have to
There's
take
just
into-
there are so many more steps you have to go through to get your product on the air.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Gina, you've worked with these guys for what, 23, 24 years?
24 years, yeah.
No. What do you like about Kerry? What do you like about Bill?
Oh gosh, I'll embarrass them.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Oh, that's okay.
That's the point.
Bob, we can't appear human.
No.
All right?
Oh, wait a minute.
We're cartoon characters.
Do you know what? They've both been there for me through some really tough stuff. I mean, we've talked about deaths, we've talked about horrible things that have gone on in our lives, and these guys are my best friends. Aside from that, I'm a huge fan. Nobody makes me laugh like they do. In fact, I have this little tea kettle laugh that if I get going really hard, I sound like a tea kettle.
I know we're winning if we get the tea kettle, if we get Gina tea kettle.
I'm immensely entertained by them, and I learn from both of them.
When it became clear that Gina had to be part of this program, what was that like? Tell me about that light bulb moment when you said Gina has to be with us.
When we realized she was the worst producer we'd ever had.
We hired her to be a producer, and she was horrible.
You have to be organized. You have to be on time.
Where's that, Gina?
What?
I've got it in my work papers. Where are your work papers? I think they're in the car.
In the back seat.
So she was terrible. But what I love about Gina, well, when she was talking just a second ago, and I look up at her on camera. Go to her right now, if you would. Just go to Gina. Sorry to direct your show. Look how beautiful she is.
You love me because I'm beautiful.
She is stunningly. I was just looking up. I mean, it always. Ooh, don't see there. I don't want to see that. But I think she. But that's that's just surface, obviously. Nobody takes, and I mean this in a comedic way. Nobody takes a comedy punch like Gina. I can say the meanest things to her, and it's just like, what?
Well, and it's because of that I credit her with the longevity of the show. Because if she's not there, I probably would have killed him by now, or vice versa, you know?
I'm a good buffer.
know.
Actually, I should be in the middle here.
Yeah, probably should. Yeah, probably should.
Don't get up.
Well, now, there's a lot of fun and games on this show. In fact, it's about all it is. But you guys are really serious, though, about the charities that you embrace. I mean, the Road Home Shelter, for instance. Tell us about that and how you decided that that was a direction that you really wanted to
It
go.
was decided for us. I mean, when we were, how many years ago that Simmons Media,
15 years ago.
which isn't around anymore, but they purchased us, and they were already with FM 100 and their other stations. They were big supporters of the Road Home, and we became part of that mix.
I remember when they approached us with it, it says, you guys, I don't know if you'd be interested, but we do this charity thing. I don't know. And I just wanted to slap them. I'm like, we're people. Okay, we can help people. We're, you know.
So that's how we got involved with that.
And then once you go down there and you see it up front, and that's when you go, oh, I get it. This is important.
And we got to know the people that work there, and it's
yeah.
a mission for them, and they devote their lives to it. It's hard for us to say, yeah, we just do this little radiothon once a year to raise money for it. These people are there every day
Yes.
helping out. And so if it's the least we can do once a year to do that, we do.
I know this is going to air on Sunday nights, and so this
I'm asleep.
you're not missing much.
TV.
Actually, you're missing a lot. And I would encourage you to watch as often as
If
you
I
can.
were awake, I would, Bob.
Well, you can tape it. You know, there is
This
TiVo.
is the brilliant 3 questions segment.
Yes, the award-winning brilliant. Well, I don't know how many awards we will ever win.
Get this man an award.
Get him an award.
Somebody give me an award. No, now I forgot. Oh,
You could do stand-up. You know that? You really could. You could be the slightly forgetful, befuddled stand-up comic.
slightly nothing, man. I'm completely befuddled. Are you
come
kidding?
across, I see you on the news occasionally, and you're
He's
very
a trusted
serious.
newsman.
You're
Yeah,
very
well,
serious,
sure.
and you know what's happening when and where. I love this side of you. I've not seen this.
Nor will you ever see this.
Oh,
Let me ask this, though. Tonight is the X96 Film Festival. I don't know what the official
as
name
we
of
tape
it.
this, it's the
Yeah.
Radio from Hell Film Festival.
The Radio from Hell Film Festival. Tell me, I mean, we've got Sundance in Utah. We don't need a Radio from Hell Film Festival,
That's
do
what
we?
I
really?
You're absolutely right.
I keep telling these guys, I'm sick of it.
This
Let's
is-
end it.
So this is Richie, our producer. That was his
So it's his fault.
idea.
You know.
And he's actually been really instrumental in helping us do things outside of what we're comfortable with. We never would have come up with this. He's like, no, you guys should do this. And it's a great chance for our listeners to be creative. They're really short films, under 5 minutes, and we always give them an item and a phrase that they have to put in the film. So we know they made it for the film festival.
I see, okay.
And they have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, we get a lot of entries. Like I think I know we're going to show 28 short films tonight, but I think we got about 35 or 40 entries.
And what does the winner win?
$1,000 gift card, and then there's some other prizes for like best actor,
Yeah,
and
there's,
best director, and
Runner-up prizes and things like that.
And so, is this the last year for it? Then,
I think
Kerry?
If I have my way,
I'm with him. I'm
how
done.
many years have we been doing it?
This is 10, I think.
Good place to end. 10.
Even
X, Roman numeral.
Okay, speaking of endings, how much longer do you think you guys can keep doing this?
Well, Gina says I have to keep doing it.
Well, 7 years, my kids will be in college, so we've got to at least do it.
So she's
that.
making me.
She's
I don't-
making you.
Yeah, I don't.
Now, anything past that is no. I think this is the kind of job we do until we can't do it anymore.
I'm expecting that one day someone will come in and shut off the microphone and turn off the lights and say, "Bill, it's time to go home."
Bill, do you know where you are, Bill?
Or worse, they'll just take a sheet and cover you.
Time to
The
go.
rest of the-
Time to go.
I read in radio trade publications all the time about these longtime jocks, in other markets. Oh, he's retiring. He's just going to spend his time fishing. And I'm like, I wish I could afford to do that. That'd be a nice luxury, but I'm never going to be able to afford
I
to.
think Kerry, you'd retire now if you could
Now.
afford it.
I would I would announce it here.
You only see it here, folks, on 3 questions. But to the point, though, how do you keep it fresh? It's been decades since you started, and you have a loyal following. Obviously, you're doing something right. How do you keep the program fresh?
I'm not sure.
It's just we look at what's happening in the world, and the world is always doing something new and fresh, and that's where we
just
get
talk about it. And,
it.
But I mean, you're right. It sometimes amazes me. It's like people say, "Don't you ever run out of things to say?" And this is like my mother always said, "You just never shut up." She was right, and I never have.
No, but it's like a marriage. It's a relationship.
Sure.
And in a marriage, you need time alone. You need to get away with each other once in a while.
She's talking about us in the audience.
Yeah. It's a marriage. And how do you keep a marriage going for a long time?
It changes. The nature of it changes, and you appreciate each other on different levels. You find different things to talk about. It's like we are the best improv troupe in Salt Lake.
Oh, now you're just.
You hate improv troops.
Don't like
That's
it.
what we do.
Well, if this is like a marriage, then what's he doing here?
He's the counselor.
I'm the marriage counselor,
Oh, okay, all right.
asking probing
I
questions.
don't know why I took it second.
Well, I tell you what, Kerry Jackson, Bill Allred, Gina Barberi from X96, Radio from Hell. Thank you so much for being part
Thanks for having
3
us.
questions.
It's a pleasure.
This has been wonderful.
That was a
Thank you
lot.
so much.
That was way more than 3 questions. Way more.